This episode of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast is brought to you by Gema. Gema's OptiStar all-in-one control unit leads the industry with a design fusing electrostatics and powder feed in one compact device. By combining the powder injector and control unit functionality into one device, you get the highest coating efficiency, fastest response times of powder output, and excellent cleaning performance. For more information, call 877-437-6771. Once again, that's 877-437-6771. And be sure to mention, Ask Joe sent me. Configure it, feed it, optimize it, integrate it. Complete it with Gema.
Hello, all you powder coating fans, and welcome to episode 46 of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. I'm your host, Joe Powder, a.k.a. Kevin Biller, and with me, as always, is my esteemed colleague, sidekick, and the St. Nicholas of Columbus, who's giving toys to all the little girls and boys. Hope you've been a good girl or boy.
I'm going to cut that.
He's ChemQuest's powder coating research formulator dude.
You're a mean one, Mr. Powder. We're broadcasting from the ChemQuest Powder Coating Research Studios in Columbus, Ohio. The purpose of the Ask Joe Powder podcast is to bring the latest news and technical know-how to the global powder coating community. So let's get it rolling.
But before we do,
Shout out.
I'd like to give a hearty shout out to Rod Graham. And say a few words about our good friend and colleague Rod Graham. He's had an illustrious career in powder coating spanning a few decades. For the last 20 years or so, Rod has been the general manager of Prism Powder Coatings operations and their business in Brunswick, Ohio, which is just outside of Cleveland. Rod is one smart cookie when it comes to powder coating technology. Not only does he understand production and processing technology, but he has a keen sense of formulation and also the influence it has on application performance. Rod's always had a great influence on the operations and the people at Prism's location in Brunswick. Most importantly, he conducts his business and decision-making with kindness, equanimity, and wisdom. So here's a shout-out to our friend and colleague, Rod Graham. Next, it's our Guess What segment.
Guess what?
Okay, powder coating fans, this is a special holiday and end-of-year edition of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. This time we'll be providing you with a recap of some of the interesting and important events that occurred this past year, 2022. If we peer into the recent past, this year can be looked upon as a transitional year with vaccines fully available to combat the pandemic, and with supply chain woes fading, powder coating companies regrouped by stepping on the gas with a number of interesting and important technical advancements and also some major investments in expansion. So let's review what transpired.
All right, I think if we're talking about technology and new advancements, I think a big focus this year was on low temperature powder coating technology. AkzoNobel, they debuted Interpon W, which is a product group specially formulated for application to heat sensitive substrates. I think the W is probably for wood, because that whole class of wood and wood based composites are and engineered boards. It's kind of popular use for low temperature powder coatings, but it could also be used for various plastics. And
I think in Dutch, the W stands for wood.
Possibility. But they have thermoset as well as UV curable technologies. And I think a lot of that came from their acquisition of Stahl last year, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was probably about 18 months ago, somewhere thereabouts. Yeah, for sure. And you look at some of the other developments in the supply chain for powder coating technology, and our friends at Allnex Resins have been supporting low temperature cure powder coating development with their ultra low temperature cure, as they call them, polyester resins. These include their UVacoat product line, which obviously is for UV curable powder coatings. And they also have some Krill Coat polyester resins for thermoset type formulations. And these products, depending on how they're formulated, are designed to cure temperatures ranging from somewhere just below 100 degrees Celsius upwards to 135 degrees Celsius with fairly short residence time at those temperatures.
All right, another big growth area for powder coating producers this year was electric vehicles. We've talked about it a few times on the show, but there's so many pieces and parts and the electric components underneath those things that needed coatings that have good performance. They need to be insulative electrically and thermally, and also deal with all the requirements of an automotive coating, corrosion resistance, etc.
Yeah, we've seen commercial activity and product promotion by some of the bigger powder manufacturers. This would include companies like Axalta, AkzoNobel, PPG, and IFS in North America. So, yeah, I think the powder coating industry has jumped on board for providing coatings that are meeting these exacting requirements. In addition, we usually talk about thermoset powder chemistry, but Arkema has been working in the thermoplastic powder coating arena, and they introduced a product family based on polyamide or nylon chemistry, which is designed specifically for the EV electric drivetrain applications. So interesting stuff. It's a really high growth area for powder coatings, probably one of the biggest, and lots to look forward to in 2023.
Another area of development, this one came from Axalta. They're kind of at the forefront of corrosion resistant powder technology. They have a line of Alesta zinc free powder coatings, and they basically get the corrosion resistance that people expect from a zinc rich formulation, but it's by using the chemistry in the backbone of the actual binder.
This one's interesting, Nate, because from my experience with corrosion resistant powder coating technology, I think there's been this historic kind of expectation that was borrowed from liquid paint technology, where some people got it into their head that zinc-rich coating technology was going to have an advantage for corrosion resistance as a coating, and they felt, well, if it works in liquid paint technology, then we have to have it in powder. And I think what people have found, and myself included, is to get superior corrosion resistance in a powder coating, you don't need zinc rich. And maybe you've heard it first here. I'm sure other people have stated it. But if you formulate a high performance powder coating with all the good stuff in it and no weak links in the formulation, And like you mentioned, the cross-linking and the binder system, if you do that properly, it outperforms anything that has zinc in a powder coating. And if you dig a little deeper, what you'll find is powder coatings provide a barrier, an impermeable barrier to the substrate. They don't rely on electrochemical type reaction, sacrificial reaction, like zinc is used in liquid coatings. So this is kind of cool stuff. I think we're going to hear more and more about zinc-free or zero zinc type corrosion-resistant powder coatings in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. People have a history with zinc, and so they specify it. They use it on their projects, but it's really annoying material to use. It's heavy, high SG. It gets lousy coverage, and it's difficult to spray. So if you can replace it with something without zinc, it just makes sense.
Yeah, much more practical solution.
Come back, zinc, come back. Zinc, what? Oh, it was all a dream. Thank goodness I still live in a world of telephones, car batteries, handguns, and many things made of zinc.
Another note from Axalta, you were talking about thermoplastic powder coatings. They came out with a technology for flame spray applications, which that's always an interesting topic because we're talking about being able to coat large structures or items in the field. Imagine a large steel structure, you spray it with powder, you just melt and fuse the thermoplastic stuff with a certain kind of a flame spreader and give yourself a nice coating.
Yeah, and that's real interesting stuff. And what I can envision, Nate, based on what I've hearing from Axalta, envision something like towers that are built for power lines, and they're exposed to whatever the environment has, which can be anything from the desert to rainy to seasonal or continental type changes in seasons to marine environments. And what Axalta is promoting is this material called Absite. That's their trade name. It's a single coat, field applied, and they're recommending flame spray like you mentioned. And they're saying it gets good adhesion and it's got extremely good impermeable. It provides an impermeable layer to resist, corrosion and the environmental effects of, demanding environments. Could be interesting. The whole concept of flame spray, we'll see how that goes. I know people have tried it in the past,
right.
And, it's been maybe works, maybe doesn't work. It's hard to control. I expect to see some development in the application side of it as well.
Right. It's the equipment, at least people were developing this stuff a few years ago, was fairly crude, and I think that people question the safety of having open flames and fine particles in the same kind of area. So I think we'll see what they have in store for the future.
We'll see where it goes.
And then this one we just covered on our last episode, but this is kind of a big deal. The EU Court of Justice dropped the classification of titanium dioxide containing particles as a carcinogen.
Yeah, and apparently the commission realized there was just a manifest error in assessing the reliability of the study in which the classification was based. It was big news when it came out as a suspected or a known carcinogen, which was in 2019, but it's just as big or bigger news that when they finally realized the mistake in their ways.
One, it's important to consider that there's a difference between saying a particle of titanium dioxide is a carcinogen and saying a particle that contains 1% titanium dioxide somewhere in it would be classified the same way, which that doesn't make any sense. What's encapsulated in a powder coating or any other sort of a fine powder, it's not actually available to the human or the skin, like if it was just in its raw form.
Not bioavailable. The other thing is they really didn't have data to back it. So, the thorough review of the toxicological studies didn't produce it as a carcinogen. So that's good news for the industry. All right, folks. It's time now for a word from our sponsors.
Synchronized monitoring and control of your entire automated process is the core of Gama's Magic Control 4.0 data management systems, with options like line management, offering deeper insight into productivity and consumption, or energy management, allowing you to monitor and save both energy and air consumption, or batch management, offering tracking of powder used to coat production batches. Gama provides the very best in technology and connectivity for smarter factory automation. To learn more about Gama's Magic Control 4.0 data management systems, visit CompleteItWithGama.com. Connect it, control it, track it, synchronize it. Complete it with Gama.
The Powder Coating Research Group is now part of the ChemQuest Group, proud sponsor of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. ChemQuest Powder Coating Research is the only independent laboratory dedicated to powder coating technology. We do everything from evaluating raw materials, formulating the next generation of coating, developing new products, consulting, testing, troubleshooting, and training. Our parent company, ChemQuest, provides expert business strategy and advisory services in all aspects of the specialty chemicals value chain, including expertise in both liquid and powder coating. To find out more, visit our website at powdercoatingresearch.com or ChemQuest's website at www.chemquest.com. You can email Kevin Biller at kbiller@chemquest.com. Thanks for listening to the Ask Joe Powder Podcast.
The ChemQuest Group is the parent company of CQ-PCR and provides strategic consulting to companies throughout the specialty chemicals value chain, including advisory services on business strategy, market research, mergers, acquisitions, or divestitures, manufacturing excellence, and formulation, application development, and benchmarking for liquid coatings and adhesives through our sister facility, the ChemQuest Technology Institute. Please contact Edie Fox Abrams, Vice President of Business Development, at info@chemquest.com.
All right, we're back. And one of the big trends that we saw in 2022 and probably will continue to see is the expansion and acquisition and construction of new facilities from really the major paint companies. The last few years, the biggest companies have been kind of just gobbling up all the smaller ones, while at the same time building new facilities and expanding all over the place.
Yeah, and I wrote about this a few years ago when mergers and acquisitions were really going strong. I learned a new word. It was oligopoly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, things are controlled by a small group of companies, and I think it's getting more and more so. Earlier this year, PPG bought Arsenisi, a market-leading powder coating company located in Verbania, which is located kind of in the northwest part of Italy. It's right there by what I would call the Finger Lakes. It's on Lake Maggiore. But anyway, they bought this powder company, which very well regarded with small and large batch capability. And then not long after that, also in northern Italy, in Milan, they built a new R&D center specializing in low-temperature cure powder coating, which probably had something to do with their acquisition a couple of years earlier of Alpha Coatings in the Chicago area. Their expansion quest continued with an investment of $10 million in extra capacity in their São Paulo, Brazilian works, powder coating works. And then a few months later, they invested another, this was $11 million to expand production capacity in their San Juan del Rio plant in Mexico.
Yeah, and AkzoNobel was up to the same kind of stuff. They invested 10 million euro into a global research and development center at their Slough site west of London. Later in the year, AkzoNobel Powder Coatings unveiled new capabilities for bonded metallic powder coatings in North Africa, Egypt, I believe.
Yeah.
The new production capability will enable AkzoNobel Powder Coatings to locally produce and deliver bonded metallic powder coatings to customers in North Africa.
I think that's kind of cool, and I think we mentioned this when this was first reported, but it's going to be able to service parts of the Middle East and certainly parts of the growing industrial development in North Africa and I'm sure parts of East Africa. So that's great news.
Back to Cleveland, Sherwin-Williams broke ground with construction of a 600,000 square foot research and development center outside Cleveland. And that's actually alongside their new headquarters they're building, which is even bigger. The new R&D center will support product development, coatings research, color technology, and process engineering. I'm a Cleveland boy. I grew up there. And this is really great news, not only for Sherwin-Williams, but for the Cleveland area in particular. It's nice seeing investment in an old kind of industrial city like Cleveland. They're really big there. I remember we were up there recently for a coatings-related event, and someone pointed out that the bridge we were under was Sherwin-Williams blue. Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, good for them, and it's good that they're investing, in their hometown. So good job, Sherwin-Williams, and it'll be interesting to see how much powder coating research gets done there, because I know they haven't done it from a corporate standpoint. It's always been at a powder facility in the past.
Right, and ProTech Powder Coatings, guys out of Canada, initiated an expansion in their Opava, Czech Republic plant. This plant produces thermoset powders for Europe, Middle East, and Asian markets.
Yeah, ProTech's an interesting company, and if you look at the past 30 or so years, I've lost count, but I know that they've acquired more than 20, probably 25 or 30 smaller coatings companies, mostly powder coating companies, but also some liquid coating companies. So it's kind of cool, kind of interesting. They're a kind of unique organization. It's a family-owned and operated company. So fascinating stuff.
Okay, and then right, CWS, which is a powder coating, liquid coating producer, as well as synthetic resins, with more than 150 years of tradition out of Germany. They were acquired by Kansai Helios recently.
Yeah, and it's interesting because CWS, it's been a family-owned and run company for over a century, obviously. And, I think we got to the point where it was time to move on. I think the family said, okay, maybe they didn't have a heir apparent, for the next generation or two.
It happens.
But CWS, I don't know if they're not exactly a household name in North America, but in Germany, they're one of the top 5, maybe top 3 powder producers with a really, really good reputation. And not only do they have a large operation in Germany, their headquarters, but also in the United States, Denmark, and Poland. And strategically, I could see how this fits really well with Kansai Helios for their long-term strategy to be leaders in powder coatings. So really kind of cool stuff. Kind of looking back at the year, Nate, it was a really good year for advancements in technology. I'm kind of excited the way people have, put some investment not only in, production and everything else, but also in advancing technology, but also bringing it to market, which really is going to change things.
Well, I think the headline this year is that it seems like things are returning back to normal. The last couple of years, everything that we're reporting on was, the companies reporting really bad quarters, this and that. Research and development slowed down. The supply chain, it was impossible to get raw materials for a while, but I think we're finally seeing things are just kind of back to normal.
Yeah, the pandemic and the supply chain mess, which was exacerbated by a number of different factors.
Big boat stuck.
It was all about why things were not going well. It was, and when is it going to end? 2022, on the other hand, it was a pretty calm year. People, kind of got into the groove, and I think there was that pent-up demand to make things happen, and they did happen. That being said, it's like, hold on for dear life because headwinds are forecast for 2023. The smart money is talking about a recession, and the analysts are saying, well, how big is that recession going to be? How deep is the economic trough? And how long is it going to last? Personally, yeah, I think I can see, we're going to have a slowdown at some point, probably in first, maybe going into second quarter. I expect things are going to rebound quickly. Maybe it's because I'm an optimist, but I really do expect 2023 is not going to be as bad as some people are saying. But, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for better than expected economic conditions, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm not going to pretend to know how to predict those sort of things.
The economists are really good at looking backwards and explaining why things happen. They're guessing when it comes to predictions for the future.
But the other thing that happened in 2022 is in-person events are back. So you can actually go to trade shows and conferences, see everybody, network, and all that sort of stuff, which was really tough. A good year and a half there where there were no in-person events.
Yeah, that sure was enjoyable over the past year, and hopefully we'll enjoy that going forward.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about upcoming events.
Hey, friends, where are we going? To an upcoming event.
February 12th through 17th, 2023 is the International Waterborne High Solids and Powder Coating Symposium, which is in New Orleans.
It's actually in the French Quarter. It's a really cool place to hang out for better part of a week, and it's kind of a little more academic based, definitely a lot more scientific based than some other shows / conferences. This one's more of a conference. They do have exhibits, but they're tabletops. But if you're looking for new stuff, and if you're also interested in what's going on the liquid side, it might be good for people to stop by.
Yeah, but if you happen to be on the other side of the world at the time, the Saudi Arabia Coating Show is taking place the 13th through the 15th of February 2023. That's in Dammam, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think this is a new show, and I think it's by DMG Events, but I think it's an outgrowth of the Middle East Coating Show, and it probably is going to be pretty interesting.
All right, then the big one, March 27th through 30th, is the European Coating Show and Conference. That's in Nuremberg in Germany. And people that are in the industry would know that the European Coating Show in Germany and the American Coating Show in Indianapolis alternate years. So odd years, the European Coating Show happens, even years, the American Coating Show happens. And those are two of the real big ones for raw material suppliers, especially.
And formulators. I mean, formulators are more the audience.
Right.
Yeah. And then in June, the 26th and 27th, in Cleveland's in the news, Coatings Tech Conference, which is also put on by, it's the American Coatings Association in conjunction with the Vincent Verlag organizers. They put on a technical conference, Coatings Tech Conference, and it's going to be held at the Hyatt Regency at the Arcade in downtown Cleveland. And I'm familiar with this place. I've stayed there before. It's a really cool historic building. And it's just cool just to be there. And
Arcade? I'll be playing pinball.
Absolutely. And about 3 blocks away, you have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, my friends. And that's got to be a place to stop if you haven't been there before. Okay. If you'd like to experience the Ask Joe Powder column, question and answer column in print. And I use the term print kind of loosely here because more and more of the trade journals and magazines have opted to go digital only. Not all of them have, but it's a trend for sure. But PPCJ, which is Polymers Paint Color Journal, and their sister publication, APCJ, Asian Pacific Coatings Journal. The Joe Powder column also appears in PCI magazine, which is Paint and Coatings Industry. You can find it on their website. It's also published by our good friends in Italy, IPCM, International Paint and Coatings magazine. Wonderful people there and an excellent publication. You can go to powdercoating.org and look for the tab under publications for Powder Coated Tough past issues, and you find a lot of Ask Joe Powders in that. And debuting for 2023, there is Ask the Expert, which is going to be published in Products Finishing, both on their website and their print version of Products Finishing. That's a Gardner publication. And that'll be by Kevin Biller, and it won't be this Joe Powder character.
All right. You can find us online at askjoepowder.com. If you want to be notified as soon as an episode comes out, I know that it could be a little unpredictable on our schedule, but you can just subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're on every single one of the listings, so that's easy. Follow us on Twitter at AKA Joe Powder. We have a YouTube channel where we not only post the podcasts, but also occasionally we'll post other videos. We'd like to put some more kind of educational content on there in the future, so subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to ask a question, the email address is askjoepowder@yahoo.com, or you can call and leave a message at country code 1-478-2-ASK-JOE. That's 1-478-227-5563. This has been a production of ChemQuest Powder Coating Research. Original music, editing, and stingers are done by Nick Page. And I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole.
And don't forget to keep your powder dry, my friends.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. This episode was brought to you by Gema. Color changes have never been so easy and fast. Gema's Optiflex Pro Q unit provides the fastest color change for a manual powder gun in the industry at 35 seconds. This can be as much as an 80% reduction in your typical changing process. PowerClean technology, built into our Optiflex Pro Q unit, efficiently cleans the entire powder path from injector to gun tip, so you're ready for quick color changes without any manual adjustments. To speak with a representative or schedule a demonstration, call 877-437-6771. That's 877-437-6771. And be sure to mention, Ask Joe sent me. Bring it, boost it, change it, finish it. Now is the time to complete it with Gama.
Have you ever actually seen Christmas caroling in real life? Like, it's always in the damn movies and, like, Hallmark TV shows. But the people that go door to door and go a-wassailing.
I did it as a lad.
Did you?
I did it as a young lad.
Because I've never seen it.
It was
in
hilarious.
If anyone wants to learn more about zinc, they're welcome to stay. We can talk about anything. I'll do your homework for you.